On today's show, the San Diego Padres have had a wild swing of things lately, and it is Fun Friday, which means that we're having on a guest to talk about all of it. That is my man, Jake Arriotti of CBS 8 Sports San Diego, talking about the team's weird vibes, Mike Shildt discourse, and the weekend pitchers against the Colorado Rockies, and probably a whole lot more good vibes. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Friday, September 12th. As always, I'm your host with sometimes the most, Javier Reyes, and I've been covering this team for nearly 6 years now, not just for this podcast, but also oh my God, that was voice crack, but also various other outlets, including justbaseball.com, chief among them. Today's episode, guys, is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. And on today's show, it's Fun Friday. That means we're always having a fun guest or a weird topic, usually a fun guest, and there is no more fun guest than my man, Jake Arriotti of CBS 8 Sports, the pride, some say, of San Diego sports, sideline commentary, reporting, all that sort of stuff. Jake, man, how you doing on this really great Friday?
Wow, what an intro. I feel a lot of pressure after an intro like that. Yeah, none of those things are true, but I do appreciate the hype, my friend. I'm feeling pretty confident right now after that intro. Feeling good, feeling ready to roll and talk some Padres who probably are not feeling as good as I am after that.
Hey, man, it's all about the confidence, and you might have given that as well as my quarterback playing with a little bit of confidence. You know what I mean? If Jake was actually in Brazil, guys, that's what I'm referencing there. But we're not talking about Brazil. We're certainly not talking about football. We're talking about America's national pastime. That is baseball. The Padres, my friend, they have been up and down, I feel like. And I talked about that obviously all week on my show and last week, but I want to know, what is your kind of perspective on the team lately? They just dropped a series against the Reds. Before that, they did have a nice little bounce back series against the Rockies. Now they've got the Rockies for 4. And before you get into it, let me just tell everybody, we are recording this at the time of the first game of the series, Thursday night. And so far, Randy Vasquez is dealing right now, but we're going to talk about that later. But for now, just in general, man, what do you think is your temperature check on this Padres team as we are running out of games, which is really weird to say, but we are.
Yeah, and I think this stretch has actually been rougher than people even realize, because there have been little pockets of decent baseball, but they've lost 11 of their last 16, right? They've lost 4 of their last 5 series. And I think the really frustrating thing, Javi, is it was supposed to be in that stretch of games that was super soft, right? This was supposed to be the time of year where the Padres kind of beat up on the lesser teams, took all this momentum into October, and were ready to roll. And instead, almost the exact opposite has happened. So the temperature's pretty cool right now, to be honest. And I think when you go into that clubhouse and you talk to the players, you know, they're still focused. They still feel great. They still are doing their thing. But I think they're frustrated in a sense of like, why hasn't it fully clicked? And definitely, why hasn't it clicked against the teams that they're facing? Now, one thing that usually helps teams is to play a 106-loss Colorado Rocky baseball team, which, of course, the Padres have 4 against. I think it's monumental, Javi, that the Padres capitalize on this series right here against a really, really bad baseball team and get that momentum back as they finish this stretch here, because it's been rough. You know, you said up and down. I don't think that's wrong by any means, but it's been a lot more down than up, I think, over the last, half a month.
Is there, we're going to talk about Mike Shildt in the second segment. So if that happens to be your answer to this, we'll just move on. But what is, like, do you think, like, the main thing that you would bring up? Like, if someone, you're at home, you're talking with your partner, or you're with your friends at the bar, and they're like, Jake, my man, you be talking to these people all the time. You've got the inside track. You know what I mean? What do you think is the first thing you'd bring up for just, like, what the big problem is, whether it be a player, whether it be an aspect of the game, do you think that's been really plaguing the team this month?
And I wish it was one thing, because then it would make it easy to fix, right? I just don't think it is one main thing. I totally understand your question, but I think there are just a lot of like little things dragging this team back and holding them back from what is, I think, their full potential. And one being the starting pitching, although, Nick Pivetta was good. There's been moments of good starting pitching, but there also has been a lot of stretch of where the starting pitching wasn't going deep into games whatsoever. But you've had weird things like Robert Suarez blowing a save, which doesn't really happen at all. And then we'll get into Mike Shildt and some of the managing decisions, but other guys like Manny just slumping as bad as possibly could be right now. I mean, it's the Bogarts injury. There's just kind of a lot of things that have piled up in a weird way. And I feel like, and maybe tell me if you think differently, Javi, but I've felt like for this whole season, we've waited for it to all come together for the Padres. And there have been really strong stretches of baseball. There have been really bad stretches of baseball, all of which has been well documented by you and every single Padre fan in the world. But it just doesn't feel like they've hit that firing on all cylinders moment. And now you're so late in the year, you go, does this team even have that? Can they fire on all cylinders at any point? Will it happen at all? So I feel like there's a little bit of like concern in that sense. I don't know if you get that same feeling, but I'm kind of like, is this really what the full potential of this team has to offer? Because I haven't believed that all year long. And now I'm like, we're running out of games to see that full potential, man.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, there was like the 2-week period of joy, which is what I get watching the Chargers usually once a year, where it's just like everything's clicking post deadline. You've got Laureano, frankly, still Laureano being the best player apparently in the National League. And you've got, the bullpen being awesome. You've got Mason Miller in there, who you were really high on. Like all these different pieces. And like you said, you lose Bogarts for the rest of the regular season, which is a big deal, I think, in a way of just like, frankly, just lineup depth, right? And then you have Michael King come back. Then he gets an injury, and he did come back the other day, but that's still, it's like all these little blimps. Jason Adam out for the rest of the season. I will say, and as I pointed out on my show yesterday, I've been a little bit on Luis Arraez lately. Since August 1st, he has a 71 WRC plus, which means that he's about 29% below. It's an advanced stat, but basically like 600 OPS. He's been very bad. But Manny Machado has a 60 WRC plus, literally worse than Luis Arraez, who I have been dogging, and I still stand by it. Now, obviously, Machado carried this team offensively for like 3 months, so there is a little bit of difference. But when you have the 2 and 3 hitters doing that, this is not average. Like, you're 30% worse than a major league average. It's not like they're getting unlucky either, right? So you have that situation, and then you have guys like O'Hearn slowing down a little bit, Jackson Merrill having all these random injuries. It's like you said, I agree, like a lot of little like just chinks in the armor, you know what I mean? After that joyous period that was the 2 weeks after the trade deadline. And I'm hoping they can recover. It's not like it's never happened that teams that have like limped their way into the playoffs just immediately exploded. Sometimes it's been the opposite. Shout out to the Washington Nationals. But sometimes it also is like, oh yeah, probably don't want to face the Cubs, you know what I mean, in round 1. That's not exactly the best idea, I think, for the Padres at this point, at this juncture. And we're going to talk about the other question that I think people have. Some people might argue it's not just a bunch of little things. It's one big thing, and that is our man, Big Mike Shildt. We're going to talk about him in just 1 second. But first, guys, I need to talk to you about our friends over at Nutrafol. That's right. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, yeah, okay, like that actually works, whatever. Yeah, whatever. No, I get it. I totally get you. There's so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. It is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people, and it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. All right, and you feel good. You're just going to feel good, man. It's NSF certified and backed by peer-reviewed studies. That's great. Don't worry about all that stuff. You're going to have less shedding, healthier looking hair after using Nutrafol. See thicker, stronger hair with shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month's subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code Locked On MLB. That's Nutrafol.com, Nutrafol.com, promo code Locked On MLB. Go and go and check that thing out, everybody. And just like that, everybody, we are thriving and vibing into the second segment of this here Fun Friday show. I'm Javier Reyes here. You can follow me technically on Twitter/X at Javapeno, JAVIIPENO. But go leave some comments in this YouTube, whatever you guys want to say. We will be answering them on the Monday mailbag. But back to the topic at hand. All right. We had our own theories about the problems. It feels like there's never an easy situation, right? There's never an easy solution to the situations. But Mike Shildt, look, and maybe this is just me being on the internet, And don't get me wrong, I've been off social media lately, but unfortunately, I still have to get my news somewhere, and I've been going on Reddit. I want to keep up. You know what I mean? What's going on? What's the play-by-play? What is everybody feeling? And people have been really upset with Mike Shildt lately. And I would describe myself as someone who has disagreed vehemently with one of his things, which has been Luis Ariz in the number 2 hole. Everybody literally just see any of my episodes the last 2 weeks. I basically talked about this a lot. Not that I want him out of the lineup, but I don't like him in the 2 spot. But for me, it's now reached a point where I think this is what we always do with managers, right? But what do you think, Jake? Do you think that the criticisms have been warranted? Because you zagged, in my opinion, correctly, when a lot of people were like, hey, we gave up Leo DeVries for Mason Miller. And Mason Miller, look, he is certainly not the reason that this team has fallen off. That guy had an immaculate inning over the weekend. I genuinely don't know. Baseball's like, I don't know how people do this. Like, how do you even like hit? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I see what he throws. The fact that the shape looks the exact same way, or it could go up or down. Anyway, don't have to nerd out about Mason Miller though. But what do you think about Mike Shildt? What have you been hearing? What's your just kind of general opinion on, people being upset with the job that he's doing right now?
Yeah, and I've heard all of it, as well as everyone complaining about the way he's managed games. And I would like to lead by saying I think it's okay to be critical of your manager. I think it's okay to think about things that he does and to not say everything he does is the right thing. At the same time, though, I think when teams are struggling, you have to find things to complain about, of course. Mm-hmm. And when there are things that just aren't breaking the way that haven't broke for the Padres, you're going to point the finger at the manager. I'm not going to sit here and pretend. Mike Shildt has forgotten more baseball than any of us listening and talking and watching this podcast will ever know. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know more baseball than Mike Shildt. But that doesn't mean everything he does is correct. So there are times where I understand why people are frustrated with what he is doing and why he has decided to do this. One thing about Mike Shildt in my time covering him is he is wildly loyal to his players and will not change things unless he absolutely has to. And he's pretty stubborn in the way that he likes to manage a team, and he's going to stick with it one way or another. And over the course of his career, it's proven him pretty well. He's a damn good manager, in my opinion. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. Again, though, I think there are times where you could be frustrated with a certain situation that he decided to do or this or that. I don't think Mike Shildt is the main reason this team has lost 11 of 16. I don't think Mike Shildt is the main reason that this team has lost 4 of 5 series. I think he's managing pretty much the same way he's managed all year long, which has almost gotten this team 80 wins. And there are times where it just literally doesn't work out because that's baseball. I would be really hard-pressed for somebody to convince me that saying Mike Shildt is the reason this team is losing baseball games. I just don't really believe that. There are decisions that I understand why people question. That's okay. I don't think he's the main reason this team's losing. All the things we pointed out before, including your best player hitting like 100 over the last stretch of games is probably why you're not winning baseball games.
We just mentioned that. Like I said, I gave you the numbers in the first segment. If your 2 and 3 hitters are just not doing anything, guys, the Reds series, they scored 3 runs, or they scored 4 runs, then 2 runs, then 1 run. Like, at some point, it does matter if you're hitting. And in my defense of Mike Shildt, I would bring up, I mean, it looked like it at first, but this will probably be, once again, the manager that was in charge under the AJ Preller regime with having the 2 winningest seasons, right? That was last year. And I still think they can win like 87, 88 games this year, but we'll see, because it's been really tough lately. But I think that the way I see it is I agree, then neutral, then vehemently disagree. I agree with the aforementioned thing about Ariz. I don't like that he's batting second. I don't think it makes any sense. If you look at all the number 2 hitters in Major League Baseball, like teams who have bat number second the most, he by far has one of the worst OPSs among all of them, and that includes teams that aren't even playoff teams, right? I'm indifferent when it comes to, okay, maybe you don't have Jackson Merrill bunt there. Okay, but whatever. Because I'm like, but what if it worked? You know what I mean? It's easy in hindsight. One thing I vehemently disagree with is something that everybody loves to complain about, Jake, every time, is bullpen management. It's actually becoming a little bit of pet peeve of mine, because everyone loves getting. Why'd you put in Kyle Hart there? You know why? Because the past 6 days, none of their starters go long. They've used up Mason Miller. And unlike some of the comments on this channel, no, you can't use your bullpen like there's no tomorrow, unless it's the playoffs, right? But we're not there yet. So for me, they had to use Robert Suarez 1 2/3. And yes, he blew the game, but what do you want him to do? The guy has a 3 ERA. He's had a sub-2 ERA over the last 2 months. He's going to give up a hit. and they had to use him again. So maybe you score more, maybe you don't have to rely on these guys as much, right? So I think that that's kind of where I land on Mike Shildt. And in general, if people want to call for somebody's head, I still love the man. I will always love the man. But this is like the 7th manager under AJ Preller. So if you guys want to start complaining about people, at some point you got to be like, that's one common denominator. And I do not want to do that because I think that he's at the very minimum just super fun to cover. Oh my God. But that's kind of my take on Mike Shildt. And I'm with you, man. He knows his players and everything that I have heard. I think both of us have kind of heard, just insider things that's like, it worked. This was the right guy to bring to that team. There have been athletic articles. We've both read them. There's been San Diego Union Tribune articles. Kevin Acee wrote one 2 years ago from Manny Machado's perspective, being like, it's not good around here. Now, part of me thinks that it's like, yeah, you're going to have a bad clubhouse when you're bad. You know what I mean? Like, the clubhouse is going to be weird when you're bad. But to me, it just feels like we're finding someone to blame when the answer is a lot more nuanced than that.
I really agree with you on most of what you said there. I think
most
AJ.
Oh no.
Well, a couple of things. AJ Preller has had some complete swings and misses when hiring managers that we all know, right? The Andy Greens, the Jace Tinglers, the guys that just weren't ready to be major league managers. No offense to those guys. And then the Bob Melvin stuff was well documented. I think they have the right guy in place to manage this team. And I don't blame any of that. The bullpen management stuff is hilarious to me. These major league teams have a team of people that look at bullpen management, how to handle it, how much this guy has done. Mike Shildt talks to his players. Hey, how are you feeling here and there? I really have a hard time with the people that criticize bullpen management. The Jackson Merrill bunt came out. Jackson did that on his own. So people that want to argue there,
okay, cool.
What are you going to do, right? Jackson decided to bunt in that situation. Probably the wrong thing to do. I don't think he should have bunted there, but that didn't come from Mike Shildt. And the people that are like, oh, he's created this bunt-heavy atmosphere. That what do you even say to that? That's not true whatsoever. So I think when things are bad, people need to point a finger. That's fair. That's fine. Your manager is going to take a lot of that fire. It's that old like Mike Gundy, I'm a man kind of stuff. Like, go after Mike Shildt all you want. I promise it doesn't bug him too much. I don't think it's bugging him too much. I don't think it's overly warranted that he's getting criticized. I think a lot of times, Javi, fans will look at games in really small sections opposed to this is a man who's been managing a 162-game season, okay? Not 4 innings of a baseball game, not one game here and there. And I think he's done a pretty dang good job of it. But there are flaws in this team. I mean, there are a lot of them that need to either be figured out or need to be hidden pretty well come October.
Absolutely, man. And it's tough. Look, they are likely to get a playoff spot. It's a little bit scarier now. And if something bad were to happen, I wouldn't be shocked if they did have to make a change because this fan base will be upset because this would truly be like another, like we've had some bad seasons of the Padres, but I'm not saying this would even be the worst, but it would be a really tough pill to swallow if they completely imploded in August when you had the White Sox to face, when you're facing the Rockies for 4. And then you've got the Orioles who've been a disgrace to baseball this year and whose players we stole from them, right? Like I would understand that, but we're not there yet. So this thing can change. If the Padres get a sweep this weekend, all that's gone. If they win 3 out of 4 this weekend, all that's gone. And that could happen. It's seemingly because the Rockies are probably one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball history. And speaking of that weekend, we're going to talk about a little bit of the pitching matchups and any other thoughts we have for this weekend series before we let all y'all beautiful people go out and enjoy the weekend. But first, I need to tell you about something. And that thing I got to tell you about is our old sponsor at FanDuel, folks. With the NFL season here, FanDuel is making sure you're ready to go out there and be ready for kickoff every 1 p.m., every 8 p.m. on Thursday, whatever it is, with a can't-miss offer right now. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits genuinely like however you like to bet. You want to have like no touchdowns in the first quarter or no points in the first quarter. You want to do player props, same game parlays, jumping in live, right, as it unfolds. If you know, okay, that team's not going to lose. I don't care if they're down by 14. You can do that stuff too. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your $5 bet. Go on and check that thing out. And just like that, everybody, we are thriving and vibing here into the waiting moments of this fun Friday episode of Locked On Padres. Remember that you can check out the show on YouTube as well, Locked On Padres on YouTube. Send me some questions in the comments section for Monday's show, or frankly for any show now. I've just been kind of winging it. Love hearing back from you guys, and especially I bet people will have something to say depending on how this series go. At the time of this recording, I mentioned at the beginning that we're playing the Rockies right now. Well, the Padres did just score with a Luis Arraez single, bringing in Freddie Fermin. Let's go! Very ironic.
I didn't know if you brought it up during the podcast you were recording, so I didn't want to say anything. But I saw it happen, and I was like, he's making Javi look bad right now.
Hey, he's been making me look right for like 2 weeks. I gave you all the numbers. This man, but it needs, again, it's my fault. Manny Machado has been very bad. He's batting 199 since August 1st. But let's talk about the weekend pitching. First of all, Randy Vasquez in this game, I just want to note that we were talking about this before recording. At the time of this, he's got 3 innings, no earned runs, no walks, which I think is really impressive, and 3 strikeouts. One of the things with Randy is that he just walks more guys and gets Ks, which is why the peripherals don't like him. He gives up hard contact, doesn't have put away stuff, but he seems to be really reliable of just filling innings sometimes. So hopefully he can do that tonight. And if he does, then for the rest of the weekend, you've got going on Friday, you've got JP Sears going against Tanner Gordon for the Rockies, 2 pitchers with above 5 ERAs. Then you've got Dylan Cease against Chase Doolander on Saturday. And then you've got our man, Yu Darvish, going against Herman Marquez. If that ain't the battle of the 2016s, I don't know what is right there between those two. Jake, what is your, let's just start with, if just any of those guys stand out to you, who is the pitcher that you think you might most want to watch this weekend?
I'll say JP Sears, but not just because I'm excited to watch him pitch. I'm interested because I think he's probably got like 1 or 2 starts left this season, because he's not going to start a game in the postseason. And I want to see how he comes out and throws the ball. I'm really interested to see how he attacks the Padres lineup. He's been an interesting piece ever since he came over, and it was like kind of a disaster in that first start, and then he was sent back down, and then all of a sudden, he's going to come back up. So I'm interested to see how JP throws, just because I think he knows in his head that, like, I got maybe 2 starts left this year, could be 1 depending on how it shakes out, and then I'm either relegated to the bullpen or I'm done for the season. Essentially, we'll see how he gets used in October if he does. So I'm interested to see how JP throws. Dylan Cease, man, I mean, I don't know what else to say, what else to harp on.
Right,
like, I've exhausted my entire vocabulary describing his season. Dylan's Dylan. We'll see what happens. And it's almost similar with you, Darvish, where you're like, I feel like we know what we have in these guys. And this deep into a season, I don't think it's going to change. So hopefully they can go out there and shut down a bad lineup. And to your point earlier, it's like you got to get 3 or 4 of these from the Rockies, and then all of a sudden you'll feel fine. You really will. I promise that. And so go beat up on a bad team, take care of business with these starters, and see what happens. Now, if the opposite happens, the sky will really fall here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a big series, and the Rockies have given them some trouble over the years. Not this year necessarily, but over the years. I will say, just to echo your sentiment about Dylan Cease real quick, it's so funny. And I brought this up a couple times with why Luis Arraez is a flawed player. That just because if you're good at one area doesn't mean you're great overall as a baseball player. Dylan Cease, did you know that he's 4th in strikeout rate?
I believe it 100%. I didn't know it, but I believe it 100%.
But then 3rd in walk rate. He's basically if Blake Snell was bad. Do you remember the year when he won the Cy Young and it was kind of unprecedented how it was literally walk or I strike you out, you will not hit me. Like, he was just unbelievable for 2 months. And I believe he had like one of the best starts since old Hall of Fame Reds pitcher. A friend of mine did a piece on this actually. He had like the best like 2-month stretch ERA wise since Gabe Gibson, something. Bob Gibson? Bob Gibson. All right, we got there eventually.
St. Louis Cardinal, though, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But whatever it was, like, it's just really funny that, like, maybe what Blake Snell did that year was kind of crazy, and you're seeing the other end of that, which is what happens when you walk too many batters. But I agree with you, man. It's just Cease has just really hurt this team this year. He just has not come through. And what do we need right now? A lot of innings. So if they just get anything out of Cease, he did okay last weekend in Coors, which... It's a scary pitcher park. You saw what happened to Jeremiah Strata. Frankly, you've seen what happens to everybody sometimes when they go there. And then you've got Yu Darvish. I think it's just a classic weekend of it's going to be more about the offense. You've got to hit these Rockies pitchers. You have to. It's kind of inexcusable if you guys continue to slump against this team. I don't care who it is. Tatis, Arias, Machado, whatever it is, they need to score runs. And for the pitchers, I just think they need to see something. They just need to see, like, can Yu Darvish be used in the playoffs, right? Can Dylan Cease be used in the playoffs? Because even when he was good, he's been really bad in the playoffs and over his career, which granted, not too much of a sample size because he was stuck on the White Sox for a while, but still, right? So I just think this is just a classic weekend of you need to see some things, but it's going to be all about the offense, man.
And what's scary is you're almost running out of options to figure out, who will throw in October. You got Pavetta, and then you're kind of up in the air depending on Michael's health and the rest of everything we just listed. And as far as the offense goes, one thing I've really kept an eye on, Javi, this whole year is this team does not hit for power at all. They're, I think, the second worst team when it comes to power in all of Major League Baseball. Can a team in this modern era of baseball make a deep run in October playing this way? I don't know. It's a huge question that I'm interested to see how it plays out, because I thought for a long time maybe the slug would come, and it just hasn't. It hasn't whatsoever. And so now in the year 2025, can you make a deep October run without slugging the ball? We're about to find out, man.
Yes, we are. We'll see if some guys bounce back. I will say, man, it's getting scary out here. You know what I mean? It is getting scary out here. It's a little tense. I'm nervous. Let's just say I'm happy that I will be with a friend in Baltimore this weekend. So I will be able to just watch the game, but I won't be like, I'll have some sightseeing to distract me the day after. Let's just say that, you know what I mean? So hopefully I can be distracted about that. I'm super nervous, but hopefully they can get some nice wins and just see that offense break out and whatnot. Jake, do you have any final things you'd like to say on this fun Friday before we let you go?
I guess my final thoughts are, and I brought it up earlier, how important I think that this series really is against the Colorado Rockies. It's funny to say a series against a team with 106 losses is important, but when you talk about momentum, you talk about trying to right a ship with just that amount of games left, and you talk about the offense like we've mentioned, where you have a real opportunity to break out, feel good about yourself for those handful of games that are left. I think it's imperative that they take care of business against the Colorado Rockies, which sounds so weird considering how bad that baseball team is.
Absolutely, man. I agree. And with those final words, man, everybody, hope you have a fantastic weekend. You've been listening to the Locked On Padres podcast, the only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. Follow the YouTube. Leave your questions in the comments. I will check them out on Monday and all of next week. And until next time, stay safe and, of course, stay faithful. My Friar Faithful homies, take care.